Okay, we're on Daf Kuf Zion 107, and we're picking up from Amar Papa at 6 lines down. Um, no, not quite. A couple lines before that, Harel Izov. 3 lines down. Harel Izov, Leifos Medinar Zov. If a person said the Mishnah, quoting the Mishnah, a person said, I'm going to bring gold. It doesn't say how much gold, so the Mishnah said the minimum gold is a dinar. Vidilma Nascha. Uh, like maybe so the dinar is the smallest gold coin, but maybe he didn't mean a coin. Maybe he meant like a chunk of gold. Amar Blazer Diamar Matbea. No, we're talking about where he said, I'm going to bring a gold coin. So then the smallest gold coin is a dinar. Vidilma Prite. Maybe, I'm sorry, the largest gold coin. Maybe he meant only a pruta of gold. Amar Papa Prite the Dava law of the Inshi. No, that's not a common denomination. The common denomination is um, is uh, is the dinar. Kesef chosmi dinar. Now silver also has to be a dinar. Vidilma naska. Maybe it's a chunk of silver rather than a coin. Or was it dinar not bad? Again, talking about where he said a silver coin. Vidilma prite. Why does he have to bring a silver dinar? Maybe he meant just a pruta of silver. It's a place where their silver prutas are not in common use. So presumably, if he said I'm bringing silver, he meant a silver dinar. Nechoshes leif mima kesef. Now nechoshes copper you can't bring less than the value of a silver ma. So Tanya, Rabbi Lozer ben Yaakov Omer, leifchos mitzinora ketana shel nechoshes. No, you can't bring anything smaller than a little copper fork. L'may chasya, what use is a copper fork? Amar Abaye, shemachatidin ba pesilos umekanchi ba neros. It's good for maintenance of a candelabra or something. So this is a thing of value made of nechoshes. So he says this is the the minimum that you could have met. Barzel. Now this isn't in the Mishnah, but the Gemara is asking about what about iron? You said I promised iron to the Mikdash, to the temple fund, and I don't remember how much I promised. So Tanya, the Brisa, Acherim, others say Laifchos Mikalia Arev. Can't give less than a piece of iron to make a crow chaser. So you see those today. You see like pigeon things that are supposed to discourage pigeons from landing on your roof or your balcony or whatever. So that's the kind of the smallest iron thing that's of use, and that's what you would have meant, or that's how you can fulfill your obligation that you made to bring iron. Vikama, how much iron is in a crow chaser? Amar Rav Yosef, amal amma, one amma by one amma. Some say leifchos me amal my chazia Amar Yosef l'chaya arif. Some say it was stated differently. What's the minimum? One by one amos, and then the Gemara says, well, what's that good for? And the answer is a crow chaser. Okay. Now we're moving on to the next Mishnah, which is talking about a nesachim that you bring voluntarily. So wine the nesachim are made of wine that you bring the mizbeach, and you can bring you can voluntarily bring a. Chase is on the phone. Okay. Hold on one second. Hello. Good. Okay. I'll be there. Thanks so much for calling.
Between this and Aryeh, great day.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so Nesachim. So Harelai Yain. Someone says, I want to bring wine. So wine is, what Nesachim are made of. How much wine do you bring? It didn't specify. Leifchos mishlosh lug. And the minimum is 3 lug. Shemen leifchos milog. And oil, if you say I'm going to bring oil, the minimum is 1 log, because these are what are the measures that are used in korbanos. Rabbi Omer shlosh lug. Rabbi says no, 3 log. And why does he say that? That's the Gemara will discuss the reason for the whether it's one or three. Pirashti v'nedema pirashti, and if you say, "Oh, I I promised a certain amount of wine, I just can't remember how much," then you have to bring the maximum. You have ikiyom maruba, like you bring as much as the day with the greatest number of nesachim that were brought. And the Gemara will discuss what day is that has the karbanos that require the most nesachim. Okay, Tana Rabbi's taught Ezrach. It says Ezrach that Kol Ezrach. What's the whole pasuk? Kol Ezrach Yasa Kacha Seila. Any citizen, if you will, can bring should bring this kind of nesachim. Malamish misnad v'niyayin. This tells you that any person, any Ezra, can bring the sachim. Stand by. And I'm back. I apologize. It's a busy day. Okay, so the kama, how much is the minimum wine? Shlosha lugin. If you want to add more, that you can give more because that's not a standard amount. Lower yiel. It has this extra word. It will be, so we're including more larger donations, larger nesachim. Maybe you can bring less than 3 lug. Lomar kacha. Kacha. You have to do this much, so it means at least this much. Shemen leifos min log. Now the Mishnah said oil you can't bring less than 1 log. Rabbi Omer shlosha lug. Rabbi says no, the minimum is 3 that you bring. Why? What's the machlokas about? Amrua Rabbanan Kamid Rav Papa. The rabbis taught before Rav Papa. Bedun mina umina. But don't mina umina. You can learn from it and continue and derive and learn more from it. Bedun mina v'okim biasra. So in other words, there's 2 possible principles here that are each taking one side. One position is you can keep learning more things from this one pasuk, and the other is bedomina v'okim biasra. No, that you just learn from one thing, and then it has to stay in that place. That's the machlokas. We'll explain as we go on. Rabban Savrei don mina umina. Ma mincha misnadvin av shemen nami misnadvin. So you can derive that. Just like, how do you know that you can just bring shemen? Right, so you learn that from mincha, right? Umina, and you can continue, that chain of thought. Ma mincha belog av shemen belog. So just as you learn that you can bring shemen in the first place, you can also learn how much shemen, which is the same as a mincha, right? The minimum for mincha, which is 1 log. But for Rabbi Savar, don mina v'oki biasra. No, you can't keep going. Like you can't keep, like you derive one thing and that's it. In other words, ma mincha misnadvin av shemen nami misnadvin. So you can learn from a mincha that you can bring oil as a donation, just like a mincha. V'oki biasra, but that's it. You can't go any further. So kinechasim. So then it becomes not like a mincha, but like nesachim. Ma nesachim shloshes lugin. Nesachim are 3 log. Av shemen nami shloshes lugin. So you're no longer learning from mincha. Now it becomes look, you're allowed to bring shemen. You that much you can learn. What is shemen? It's basically it's nesachim. So you learn from nesachim. It has to be 3 log, and not the 1 log that a mincha would have. Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, "Imi mincha gamar la Rabbi duchuli amal plige." Now, if we're figuring out from mincha that you can actually do shemen as a donation, then everybody would say don mino mina. Rebbe mi ezrach gamila. No, Rebbe is getting it from Ezrach. The fact that it says Ezrach that anybody can bring, somehow he derives that means um, you can bring oil, and not from mincha. You don't get that from mincha. So there's no issue of don mino mina or don mino v'uki be'asra. Amalei Rav Huna brayed Rav Nasl Rav Papa. So Rav Huna says to Rav Papa, "Umi masi samar sache." What you're going to say that he gets the fact that you can bring shemen as a donation? You get that from Ezrach. Vatanya, we have a brisa. Korban malamed shemisnadvin shemen. The fact that the Torah says korban, that tells you that you can bring oil. The kama. How much do you have to bring shlosha slugin? Man shabbos like yamar shlosha slugin. So the fact that the 3 log requirement is a tip off. That who is that? Rebbe. That's Rebbe. V'kamaisi lami karban, and you get it not from the word Ezrach, right? So Amalei Sarapap said, yeah, Itanya Tanya. If your brisa is if you have a brisa, then you win. No argument. The last thing the Mishnah was, you say you're going to bring, you said, I promised to bring a certain number of log of wine. I can't remember how many I said. So what is the maximum nesachim that get brought on one day? Tana, we have a brisa. Kiyam tov harishon shachag shecholias b'Shabbos. First day of Sukkot, which is also on Shabbos. So the first day of Sukkot had the maximum number of karbanos. Each carbon came with nesachim, and it's also Shabbos. So you have the Shabbos and you have the Tamin. So that's the maximum number of karbanos that require nesachim in one day. And that's, if you can't remember, if you say I'm going to bring nesachim, I'm going to bring a certain number of nesachim. I can't remember which one. The most you could have offered, or you could have meant, was the number of nesachim that are brought in one day. Okay. Next, Mishnah Harayalai Ola. Person says, I'm going to bring an Ola, Yavi Kavas. So he doesn't say what kind of animal, so bring a lamb, right? That's like the cheapest one or the minimum one. That's the cheapest one. Rav Elazar ben Azariah Omer Otor or Ben Yona. No, you can bring an Ola Sa'of, one of the birds. Perashi min abakar ben Yodei ma perashi. But if you say, I said I was going to bring an animal as an Ola, but I don't remember a specific animal. I don't remember. Did I say a goat? Did I say a sheep? Did I say a cow? Yavi parva egel. Then you have to bring the most expensive one, right? Which is a cow or a bull or a male calf. If I said I would bring from animals, that was bakar. Sorry, so that's from cattle. If I said I'm going to bring from animals, but I don't remember which one I said. Yavi parva egel ayil sire gedi v'tala utla. You have to bring it could have been cattle, it could have been goat, it could have been a sheep. So you have to bring all of those. Pirashi v'nodea ma pirashti. If you say you didn't say bakar, you didn't say animals, you just said I was going to bring. I said I would bring a specific kind of ola, but I don't remember which specific one I said. Mostly filet term ubenyana. Then all the ones we said before, plus the bird, one turtle dove and one pigeon, because those are possibilities that you might have donated. Harelai Todo Shlamim. Person says, I'm going to bring a Toda offering or a Shlamim offering. Yavi Kevis. The smallest, the minimum, the cheapest one of those is a Kevis. You can be Yotze Yidei with a Kevis. Parashim Ilabachar. If I said I'm going to bring a Toda or a Shlamim from cattle, now I don't remember which one I specified. Yavi Parva Para. That's the cheapest, is a para and a para. Egel ve'egla, or a calf. Mina behema. If you said, I'm going to bring a specific kind of animal, and then you forget what kind of animal. Yavi paru para egel ve'egla ayl rechela sarius yira gediu gedia talev talia. You bring all of the possible animals. Harelai shar, person says, I'm going to bring an ox as a carbon. Yavi hu nesachav b'mana. You then the minimum you can bring is the value of $100, 100 whatever, 100 dinar, which value includes the ox and the nesachim. Egel, second. So why amana? So Rashi says that this is a tradition that the minimum would be amana. Rashi. That's a tradition. Egel, if a person said I'm going to bring an egel, yavihu nesachav b'chamesh, 5 slime, which is 20 dinar, which is not quite a mana. Ayil, if he says I'm going to bring an ayil, a ram, yavihu nesachav b'shtayim, that's 2 sela. Kavas yavihu nesachav b'sela, the minimum value of the animal and nesachim would be a sela. Shor b'mana. If you say I'm going to bring a shor worth $100, yavi b'mana chutz min nesachav, then the shor, the ox, the animal itself, has to be worth the mana plus the nesachim. Egel b'chamesh. If he said I'm going to bring a 5 sela egel, then yavi b'chamesh chutz min nesachav. Same thing. You have to bring the value of the 5 sela egel plus the nesachim on top of that. Ayel b'shtayim, etc. Yavi shtayim chutz min nesachav. Kevas b'sala yavi b'sala chutz min nesachav. All the same with all the animals. Shor b'mana v'hevi shnayim b'mana. Now, what if you say I'm going to bring a shor worth a mana, and you bring 2 ox that are together worth 1 mana? Lo yatsa. That doesn't count because you said you were going to bring an ox worth $100. You bring 2 50s, that doesn't count. Even if each one is worth like $99, they don't combine. You have to bring 1 ox worth at least $100. Shachar v'hevi lavan. What if you say I'm going to bring a black ox and then you bring a white one? Lavan v'hevi shachar, or vice versa. Gadol v'hevi katan lo yatsa. That doesn't count. Katan v'hevi gadol yatsa. This we saw before. If you say I'm going to bring a small one and you bring a big one, so that's okay. But Rabbi Omer lo yatsa. But Rabbi says no, and we dealt with that machlokas earlier. Below pligit. So the first dispute in the Mishnah was if the minimum for somebody who didn't say what kind of ola, is it a lamb, which is the cheapest mammal, or is it a bird, which is even cheaper? But there's no argument. There were local traditions, local conditions, I should say. If in one place lambs were less expensive than birds, so then the lamb is the cheapest one you bring. In the other place, birds were cheaper than lambs, so the bird is the cheapest one that you can bring. Someone says, I volunteered to bring to the mizbeach an ola that's worth a sela, yavi keva. So that's a sheep. You have to bring a sheep that's worth a keva, because that's kind of that's the only animal that could be worth a sela, only a sela. That's the only animal that a sela's worth is suitable for the mizbeach. But if you say I said I would bring a certain a mizbeach at a certain value, I forget what the value was. Now, if you say that I'm going to bring a sela, a certain animal worth a sela, then you have to bring all the things that are worth a sela that go on the mizbeach. So it could be a lamb, or in other places it could be birds, or it could be levana, right, which is probably, I assume, cheaper than animals, etc. The Mishnah said if you say I'm going to bring a certain animal from cattle, but I don't remember which cattle I said, Yavi parva egel. So that's the minimum, is the parva egel. Why both? Bring the bull in either case. So like uh, the par is larger than the egel, so bring the par, and then you'll certainly be in fulfilling your obligation. Where it says Hamani Rebbe, that must be according to Rebbe. We've seen Rebbe says you can't do that, right? It's even if you bring a larger animal than what you promised, that doesn't get you off the hook. You have to bring what you promised. So if you can't remember if you promised a par or an egel, you have to bring both. Rabbi, where it says if that's the case, if you're going to interpret this according to Rabbi, then Ema Sefer, what about the end of the Mishnah? Shor b'mana ve'evi shnayim b'mana lo. If you said I'm going to bring a shore worth $100 and you bring two that are worth 50 each, then you're not yotzei. Even if you bring two $99 oxen, you haven't brought $100 ox. And shachar ve'evi lavan ve'evi shachar, gadol ve'evi katan lo yatsa. So basically, we're going on with the Mishnah, and then at the end of the Mishnah, we again katan baby gadol yatsa, Rabbi Omer lo yatsa. So this same Mishnah later says, oh, and Rabbi has a different opinion. So don't tell me that the stam voice in the Mishnah, the anonymous voice in the Mishnah, is Rabbi, because Rabbi is brought in later. Reisha v'sefer Rabbi M'tziusa Rabbanan. So like you're going to say that the beginning of the Mishnah is Rabbi, the end of the Mishnah is Rabbi, and the middle is Rabbanan. It doesn't make sense. So Gemara says, yeah, actually you can't say that. Reisha v'sefer Rabbi M'tziusa Rabbanan. V'achikar. This is what it means. Davar zeh machlokas Rabbi Rabbanan. In other words, it's saying that this is the machlokas of Rabbi and Rabbanan, and then it proceeds to lay it out. Okay, and we're going to stop here for today, and David will pick it up from Tanan Hasa.